following shir is actually adapted. What I heard and my year at Machon Yaakov heard 2 years ago for Parshat Noach. So he opened with the pasuk V'ani berov chastecha avo beitecha. The way Breshit Rabbah, which is a midrash on Breshit, explains this pasuk in Tehillim is what's the beitecha, right? This is actually Noach speaking to God. I, berov chastecha, will come to your house. What's the house? The ark, the teva. Which is interesting, because normally when we think of Noah's ark, we think that it's his ark, it's his house, that's where he's living. He built it. Took him 120 years. So what does this mean that he's coming into God's house? What does that mean? Here's another question. Noah said that he didn't understand why he was being saved. He wasn't worthy. He did all the sins that the people of his generation did. How's that possible? After all, the very first pasuk in our parsha is Ele Toldo Noach, right? These are the offspring of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik. Noach was a tzaddik. Tamim haya bedoratov. However you translate tamim, right? He was perfect. He was unblemished in his generations. Et Elokim hitalach Noach. With God walked Noah. Noah walked with God. So how can we say that? How could Noach say that? Oh, I did everything that the other generation did. That's the question. So, for that, we need to we need to take a step back to understand the scope of this question. We need to have a better understanding of what is Tselem Elokim. This came up in last week's parsha, of course, because that's when Adam was created. What does it mean to be created B'Tselem Elokim? So this is actually machloket. There are a few opinions. One opinion says that the Tselem, right, the Tselem, the likeness. First, nobody says it's a physical likeness, at least no one Jewish. When we talk about Tselem Elokim, the likeness of God, we are not talking about a physical representation. So what does it mean? So there are a few opinions. Here are a couple. What that means that you have da'at, right, or a da'as. What is that? It's a little bit complicated to explain, especially in a few minutes. But effectively, it's kind of the internal knowledge of what makes you human, I guess, and able to operate in the world, and I guess different from animals in the way that you don't really need to explain or understand scientifically how you're different from an animal. You just understand that you are different, right? Like when you see a chimpanzee, even though they share 98% of the same DNA as us, you understand. Hopefully, this is an animal, and this is me and other human beings, and we're not the same, right? If you rely on that scientifically, then you're in big trouble, because 98% of our DNA is the same. So really, there isn't much difference. But with da'at, you just understand, look, this is. You don't need proof. You just know it. It's an intrinsic knowledge. It's something that does not require outside corroboration. If you need another example, by the way, this is based on Rabbi Tatz, but if you need another example, it's knowledge of the fact that you're awake, right? That you're not dreaming, right? At the end of the day, how do you know that you're not dreaming? You don't know that you're not dreaming, right? Except for that, you just know. Like if someone asks you for proof, you don't have proof. You know it. There's not something you need to bring to a lab. Fine. Or there's Bechira, right? So with that's one view of what Tselem Elokim is. Then there's Bechira, there's free choice, right? Our ability to do positive actions, to do negative actions, right? To assign a moral weight to an action, right? That's another version of what Tselem Elokim is. But Reb Chaim Volozhiner, right, one of the main Talmidim of the Vilna Gaon, and the author of the Nefesh HaChaim, he focuses on something else. He's like, look, to understand what Tselem is, we need to understand what Elokim is. So what's Elokim? Elokim is the word for master, for like a powerful force. It's a word we use for judges. It's a word we use for malachim, right? But now we're talking about like the Elokim, right? So what do we call the Elokim? The Baal HaKochot, right? The master of forces. Yeah? So that's the Tselem Elokim that we're comparing ourselves to. So in the same way that God controls all forces, in the same way, in the same likeness, we actually have an effect on all forces. Now, what does that mean? That our actions change the world. Amazingly, the things that humans do change the world. And they do it positively. If we do positive actions, then it affects the world positively. If we do negative actions, then it affects it negatively. That is very different from the way most people see morality nowadays. Most people are like, I just want to hang back. I don't want to do anything negative. I don't want to pollute the world. That's not a Jewish vision of the world. The Jewish vision of the world is not to step back and hope, and hopefully nothing bad will happen. The Jewish vision of the world is to engage in it proactively and say, hey, I want to contribute positively to the world. And by contributing positively, you actually make the world better because your actions affect the world and raise it up. And that's the problem we actually see in this week's parsha. What was happening in the generation of Noach? The whole world starts to get destroyed. Right? And the whole and all the land became filled with robbery until the point where actually so Vayarz Elokim et haaretz v'hinei nishchata ki shchit kol basar et darko la'aretz, right? Even like all fleshes and all living things were corrupted in the way of the world. Now, how did that happen? How can animals become corrupted? They live on instinct. They don't have free choice. The fact that human beings can become corrupted, that makes sense. They have vechira, right? They have free choice. They can do morally positive things or morally negative things. But this has no relation to animals. How does this work together? So the answer is, once human beings became corrupted enough, that negativity actually was so deep and it was so worldwide and international, it actually changed nature. They caused the animals to sin because they, to stray from their nature because of human beings' sins. And therefore, actually, we come back to that original topic of, was Noach tzaddik or not? Right? After all, he says that he sinned and he participated in the sins, but how's that possible? It says he's a tzaddik. So actually, there's a Rashi on this, and it's a famous question. So it says, Ela todo Noach, right? Noach ish tzaddik, he's a tzaddik. Tamim haya b'dorotav. He was tamim in his generations. Now, what does that mean? So Rashi says that there are those who interpret it l'ganai, l'shevach, right? They're like, look, he was amazing in his times, and imagine if he was in a better time, he would have been even better, right? There are those, though, that say l'ganai. They say, look, he was good for his generation. That was a horrible generation. If he was in Abraham's generation, he would have been nothing. So Rashi says, right? So was he a tzaddik or was he not? Now, what we see is, at least from that first interpretation, that he was good now, but he would have been even better later, that Noach's environment, even though he was a tzaddik, influenced him, right? So he was being influenced by other people's behavior. And that's why he says, I need to come into your house, God, to come into this ark, to purify myself and to expunge myself from this spiritual negativity. And that's a very important lesson we learn. That we're supposed to be contributing positively to the world, and actually our actions do make a difference. But moreover, that our environment affects us as it affected Noach, even a tzaddik. Shabbat shalom.